Hey everybody, I am in Fernandina Beach, Florida, and I am at one of my most favorite places to visit every time I come. And if you look right here in my hands, you can see where I'm at. Yes, it is the Pippi Longstocking House. There's my book, and there's the toys that I bought many years ago. And back there is the house. So I'm gonna flip the camera around so you don't have to look at me the whole time and show you the house, even though you can't go in. It is privately owned, but anyway, that's not saying I can't enjoy it from afar. Okay, a lot of people always wonder, how do you get to the Pippi Longstocking house? So you turn on whatever that road was that we just turned on, but it's on off of Atlantic Avenue. I did see that. And then you drive down some.
Is this road called White Street we turn on?
I gotta make sure. But anyway, we are on North 14th Street. We looked at a sign and that is where we're at. So now we're coming up into the old town Fernandina historic site. And it is on White Street that you turn. And you will see this sign that says you are in Old Town Fernandina. And it's getting ready to come into sight. Up on your left, you will see what is known as the Pippi Longstocking House. There it is. So many years ago, back in the 1980s, Pippi Longstocking, well, the New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking was filmed here. And they use that house back there in the background, and it is a very popular tourist destination to come and see, myself included. And they're probably like, what in the world is that grown woman out there doing? But that's okay. And the good thing about this, where I'm standing at right now, is actually a Florida state park. So whoever bought the house, they will always have beautiful views of the water out here. So since I really do like Pippi Longstocking, I am out here in a goofy looking hat myself, because if you watch the movie, she did have on a ridiculous looking hat briefly in it. And I also got my hair braided, even though I did not do a very good job at it. But anyway, the house is back there. And in this book right here, it tells the little story about whenever Pippi moved into the Villa Coola. So let's see how good I can do this. So what better way than to read the book in front of the house? But I'm not going to read the whole book because it's too long. But anyway, it says, Pippi moves into the Villa Coola. Way out at the end of a tiny little town was an old, overgrown garden, and in the garden was an old house. And in the house lived Pippi Longstocking. She was 9 years old, and she lived there all alone. She had no mother and no father, and that was, of course, very nice, because there was no one to tell her to go to bed just when she was having the most fun, and no one who could make her take cod liver oil when she much preferred caramel candy. Once upon a time, Pippi had a father of whom she was extremely fond. Naturally, she had a mother too, but that was so long ago that Pippi didn't remember her at all. Her mother had died when Pippi was just a tiny baby and lay in a cradle and howled so that nobody could go anywhere near her. Pippi was sure that her, turn the page, mother was now up in heaven watching her little girl through a peephole in the sky, and Pippi often waved up at her and called, "Don't you worry about me, I'll always come out on top." Pippi had not forgotten her father. He was a sea captain who sailed on the great ocean, and Pippi had sailed with him in his ship until one day her father was blown overboard in a storm and disappeared. But Pippi was absolutely certain that he would come back. She would never believe that he had drowned, and she was sure that he had floated until he landed on an island inhabited by cannibals. She had often thought he had become the king of all cannibals and went around with a golden crown on his head all day long. "My papa is a cannibal king. It certainly isn't every child who has such a stylish papa," Pippi used to say with satisfaction. "And as soon as my papa has built himself a boat, he will come and get me, and I'll be a cannibal princess." Hey-ho, won't that be exciting? Her father had bought the old house in the garden many years ago. He thought he would live there with Pippi until he grew old and couldn't sail the seas any longer. And then this annoying thing had to happen, that he was blown into the ocean, and while Pippi was waiting for him to come back, she went straight home to the Villa Coola, which is back there. That was the name of the house. It stood there ready and waiting for her. One lovely summer evening, she had said goodbye to all the sailors on her father's boat. They were all fond of Pippi, and she of them. "So long, boy," she said, and kissed each one on the forehead. "Don't you worry about me, I'll always come out on top." Two things she took with her from the ship: a little monkey whose name was Mr. Nilsson, which he's right there. He was a present from her father, and a big suitcase full of gold pieces. The sailors stood upon the deck and watched as long as they could see her. She walked straight ahead without looking back at all, with Mr. Nilsson on her shoulder and her suitcase in her hand. "A remarkable child," said one of the sailors as Pippi disappeared into the distance. He was right. Pippi was indeed a remarkable child. The most remarkable thing about her was she was so strong. She was so very strong that in the whole wide world there was not a single police officer as strong as she. Why, she could lift a whole horse if she wanted to, and she wanted to. She had a horse of her own that she had bought with one of her many gold pieces that the day she had came home to the Villa Coola. So, this is the horse. So she had always longed for a horse, and now he was living on her porch. When Pippi wanted to drink her afternoon coffee there, she simply lifted him down in the garden. Beside Villa Coola was another garden and another house. In that house lived a father and a mother and two charming children, a boy and a girl. The boy's name was Tommy and the girl's Annika. They were good, well brought up, and obedient children. Tommy would never think of biting his nails, and he always did exactly what his mother told him to do. Annika never fussed when she didn't get her own way, and she always looked pretty in her little well-ironed cotton dresses. She took the greatest care not to get them dirty. Tommy and Annika played nicely with each other in the garden, but when they had often wished for a playmate. While Pippi was still sailing on the ocean with her father, they often used to hang over the fence and say to each other, "Isn't it silly that nobody ever moves into that house? Somebody ought to live there, somebody with children." On that lovely summer evening when Pippi for the first time stepped over the threshold of the Villa Coola, Tommy and Annika were not at home. They had gone to visit their grandmother for a week, and so they had no idea that anybody had moved into the house next door. On the first day after they came home again, they stood by the gate looking out onto the street, and even then they didn't know that there actually was a playmate so near. Just as they were standing there considering what they should do and wondering whether anything exciting was likely to happen or whether it was going to be one of those dull days when they couldn't think of anything to play, just then the gate of the Villa Coola opened and a little girl stepped out. She was the most remarkable girl Tommy and Annika had ever seen. She was Miss Pippi Longstocking out for her morning promenade. This is the way she looked. So before I describe her, I'm going to show her. Isn't she precious? Most cute little thing you've ever seen in your life. Her hair, the color of a carrot, was braided in too tight braids that stuck straight out. Her nose was the shape of a very small potato and was dotted all over with freckles. It must be admitted that the mouth under this nose was a very wide one with strong white teeth. Her dress was rather unusual. Pippi herself had made it. She had meant it to be blue, but there wasn't quite enough blue cloth, so Pippi had sewed little red pieces on it here and there. On her long thin legs she wore a pair of long stockings, one brown and the other black, and she had on a pair of black shoes that were exactly twice as long as her feet. These shoes her father had bought her for her in South America, so that Pippi would have something to grow into, and she never wanted to wear any others. But the thing that made Tommy and Annika open their eyes wide as the ball was the monkey sitting on the strange girl's shoulder. It was a little monkey dressed in blue pants, yellow jacket, and a white straw hat. Pippi walked along the street with one foot on the sidewalk and the other in the gutter. Tommy and Annika watched as long as they could see her. In a little while she came back, and now she was walking backward. That was because she didn't want to turn around to get home. When she reached Tommy and Annika's gate, she stopped. The children looked at each other in silence. At last Tommy spoke. "Why did you walk backward?" "Why did I walk backwards?" said Pippi. "Isn't this a free country? Can a person walk any way she wants to? For that matter, let me tell you that in Egypt everyone walks that way, and nobody thinks that it's the least bit strange." "How do you know?" asked Tommy. "You've never been in Egypt, have you?" "I've never been in Egypt." "Indeed I have. There is one thing that you can be sure of. I have been all over the world and seen many things stranger than people walking backward. I wonder what you would have said if I had come along walking on my hands the way they do in Father's India." "Now you must be lying," said Tommy. Pippi thought for a moment. "You're right," she said. "I am lying." "It's wicked to lie," said Annika, who had at last gathered up enough courage to speak. "Yes, it is very wicked to lie," said Pippi even more sadly. "But I forgot it now and then." Well, she didn't forget it. She forgets it now and then. "And how can you expect a little child whose mother is an angel and whose father is king of the cannibal island, and who herself has sailed on the ocean all her life, how can you expect her to tell the truth always? And for that matter," she continued, her whole freckled face lighting up, "let me tell you that in Congo there is not a single person who tells the truth. They lie all day long. Begin at 7 in the morning and keep on until sundown. So if I should happen to lie now and then, you must try to excuse me and to remember that it is only because I stayed in the Congo a little way too long. We can be friends anyway, can't we?" "Oh, sure," said Tommy, who realized suddenly that this was not going to be one of those dull days. "By the way, why couldn't you come and have breakfast with me?" asked Pippi. "Why not?" said Tommy. "Come on, let's go." "Oh, yes, let's," said Annika. "But first I must introduce you to Mr. Nilsson," said Pippi, and the little monkey took off his cap and bowed politely. Then they all went in through Villa Cula's tumbled down garden gate along the gravel path bordering with old moss-covered trees, really good climbing trees they seemed to be, up to the house and onto the porch. There stood the horse munching oats out of a soup bowl. "Why do you have a horse on the porch?" asked Tommy. All horses knew he lived in stables. "Well," said Pippi thoughtfully, "he'd be in the way in the kitchen, and he doesn't like the parlor." Tommy and Annika patted the horse, and then they went on into the house. It had a kitchen, a parlor, and a bedroom, but it certainly looked as if Pippi had forgotten to do her Friday cleaning that week. Tommy and Annika looked around and cautiously, just in case the king of the cannibal isles might be sitting in a corner somewhere. They had never seen a cannibal king in all their lives, but there was no father to be seen, and no mother either. Annika said anxiously, "Do you leave her all alone?" "Of course not," said Pippi. "Mr. Nilsson and the horse live here too." And I about lost my hat, so that's why I had to take that away for a second. I know these people on these boats passing by, they're like, "What in the world is she doing?" I'm doing a YouTube video, that's what I'm doing. So anyway, let's continue. "Yes, but I mean, don't you have any mother or father here?" "No, not in the least tiny bit of a one," said Pippi happily. Who tells you when to go to bed at night and things like that?" said Annika. "I tell myself," said Pippi. "First I tell myself in a nice friendly way, and then if I don't mind, I tell myself again more sharply, and if I still don't mind, then I'm in for a spanking. See?" Tommy and Annika didn't see it all, but they thought maybe in a good way. It was a good way. Meanwhile, they had come out into the kitchen, and Pippi cried, "Now we're going to make the pancake. Now there's going to be a pancake. Now we're going to fry a pancake." Then she took 3 eggs and threw them up in the air. One fell down on her head and broke so that the yolks ran into her eyes, but others she caught skillfully in a bowl where they smashed to pieces. I always did hear the egg yolk was good for the hair, said Pippi, wiping her eyes. You wait. And I got this nice little drawing right there. And see, mine will soon begin to grow so fast it will crackle. As a matter of fact, in Brazil, all the people go about with eggs in their hair, and there are no bald-headed people. Only once was there a man who was so foolish that he ate his eggs instead of rubbing them on his hair, and he became completely bald. And when he showed himself on the street, there was a riot that the police were called out. While she was speaking, Pippi had neatly picked the eggshells out of the bowl with her fingers. Now she took a bath brush that hung on the wall, and she began to beat the pancake batter so hard that it splashed all over the walls. At last she poured what was left onto a griddle that stood on the stove. And I did lose the hat. Well, I was going to kill me because I bought that hat for her the other day. But anyway. When the pancake was brown on one side, she tossed it halfway up to the ceiling so that it turned right around in the air. And then she caught it on the griddle again. And when it was ready, she threw it straight across the kitchen, right onto a plate that stood on the table. Eat, she cried, eat before it gets cold. And Tommy and Annika ate and thought it was a very good pancake. Afterward, Pippi invited them to step into the parlor. There was only one piece of furniture in there. It was a huge chest with many tiny drawers. Pippi opened the drawers and showed Tommy and Annika all the treasures she kept there. There were wonderful birds' eggs, strange shells and stones, pretty little boxes, lovely silver mirrors, pearl necklaces, and many other things that Pippi and her father had bought on their journeys around the world. Pippi gave each of her playmates a little gift to remember her by. Tommy got a dagger with a shimmering mother-of-pearl handle, and Annika a little box with a cover decorated with pink shells. In the box there was a ring with a green stone. Suppose you go home now, said Pippi, so that you can come back tomorrow, because if you don't go home, you can't come back, and that would be a shame. Tommy and Annika agreed that it would indeed. So they went home past the horse, who had now eaten up all the oats, and out through the gate of the Villa Coola. Mr. Nilsson waved his hat as they left. So that is the end of chapter 1 of that book. I'm not going to read all the chapters out here because we would be out here all day. So, turn this around for a second. So this out here, this is what you saw in the movie whenever you would see her looking out. And there's also a place down there at the Marina that I'll show you in a few minutes that was also used. And as you can see, it's just a beautiful day out there. All the boats are out. The clouds are out. It's what you would call a perfect day. And the thing I like about that house back there is it is behind a state park. So you will always have this view. Because there's only state parks there. Nothing's going to be built in front of it. Which is a good thing. And there is a beautiful boat getting ready to pass by. So I'll let you see that. Hopefully it'll pass by. There's also some people out there on some ski boats. That looks like a lot of fun. So this is the Friends of Fort Clinch, and that lets you know that they're the ones that take care of this piece of property right here. And probably the next time I come back in the area, I'll probably go in more detail because I am coming back to Florida in September. And then I'll do a better tour on this because I'm probably going to go back to Fort Clinch then. So I can get there early and then I can just incorporate all this together. But there's nothing wrong with looking at a little bit of it right now. And then you have the house, of course. And I was watching some other YouTube videos, and they said that the front of the house is not what was used. It's actually the side of the house over there that you cannot see is what was used for the movie. And if you see this sign back here, you also know you're at the right spot. And that talks about Amelia Island, Florida. And you also have this beautiful tree right here. Okay, so since my hat almost blew off out there, I just changed to a different one. So anyway, the movie, The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, which is right there, that was the house that was used back there for that movie. And that's how the DVD looks. If you're ever interested in watching it, if you hadn't already. Such a fantastic movie. And also, many years ago, I went to the Villa Cool toy store, which I will show you later. And I said, well, they're based on Pippi Longstocking. They obviously got to have something Pippi Longstocking. So they had Mr. Nilsson. Isn't he precious? Now, he is not the way he is described in the book. As you can tell, if you just heard me read the book, that is not how he's described. His little outfit is totally different than this, and he also has on a straw hat, but he did not have on a straw hat. And this, in the movie, was named Alfonso, but in the book, he was never named, ever. He's just referred to as the horse. But in the TV series or movie that was made before this movie, they called him the old man. And then he eventually became Alfonso for this movie. And then, of course, the lady of the hour, Miss Pippi Longstocking. Oh, she's my spirit. She's tacky as everything. I was tacky in that hat a while ago, wasn't I? Probably tacky in this hat right here as well. But anyway, isn't she so cute? And she's dressed a little different than how she is described in the book as well, because she has on yellow and black, and in the book it was brown and black. And then her little dress is slightly different because, you know, she's got like a red apron on right here. But she's so spunky. So I'm pretty sure they still sell all these animals, well, the animals and the doll, over there at the Villa Cool toy store. So I will show you where that's at, because we're getting ready to head over to Fernandina in the Center Street area. I have to remember what it's called. Oh, word. And then, of course, they had this book years ago, and there's different little stories in here that you can read if you like to read. I like to read, and it tells about all her adventures. So I shall pack them up, and they shall head back home once again. So I brought them in this cute little bucket. Is that or is that not cute? It looks like I was given it as a gift. It's a gift to myself. Even though I've had them 6 years. So it just took me 6 years to come here and do a video about that. So you ready to go on over to Fernandina?
Yep.
All right, so we shall see you over there, and then we'll come back and wrap up the video. Ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go. So now we're on Center Street in historic Fernandina Beach, and a lot of the scenes from the movie were filmed here. So if you remember in the movie, whenever they had the ice cream fight in the street, it actually happened up here. And whenever you take a boat tour, you will actually find out it was not ice cream that was used in the movie, it was mashed potatoes. Because it took so long for them to film the scene that ice cream was melting everywhere, so then they brought mashed potatoes out instead. And that's what was being flung whenever the kids were throwing ice cream at each other. And the Palace Saloon was used in the movie as well as a backdrop, but they had to change how it looked. Because I guess that's not an appropriate name for a children's movie to have in it. And then back here is my personal favorite place to take sunset pictures anywhere I have ever visited. I absolutely love the Marina in Fernandina Beach. So since I was talking about the boat tours, this right here is where you can get tickets at to go out with the Amelia River cruises. I cannot suggest that enough. I love it. We have not had a bad tour yet. We've been on tour to tours that takes you out to Georgia, and then we've had another one that has a sunset cruise. It's absolutely wonderful. And so if you look in this direction, you'll also recognize some scenes from the movie towards the end of the movie. So this is the Marina in Fernandina Beach, which we're still here, but I actually got out of the car so I could finish recording it. But that is a massive boat over there. And that over there is a restaurant. And then we have the hotels and all that fun stuff over there. But you can get beautiful videos of the sunsets here. Literally one of my favorite spots in the world. And that's the shrimp boats over there that goes out and gets the fresh shrimp for the area. And they have changed this marina up since I last came, which for a while they had a wall up there. I guess it's whenever they were doing all this construction on this new walkway and stuff. So even think all the way back in the late 1980s, whenever they filmed the movie. This was where they used the water scenes. And that's where Mr. Nilsson and Alfonso were here, and Tommy and Annika and Pippi and everybody else. So I always do like to come here whenever I come to Fernandina Beach, just for the simple fact, because Pippi Longstocking was filmed here, and I did not know that until I started coming here, because I had never actually heard of Amelia Island or Fernandina Beach until my cousins moved to the area many years ago, and they were like, oh, you need to go see the Pippi Longstocking House. I'm like, Pippi Longstocking House? They're like, yes, it's the house that was used as the Villa Coola in the movie. So we came, and the house did not look anything like it did in the movie, because in the movie it's really run down, and then whenever you see the house, back then it was white, and I will insert the picture somewhere after I talk about it here. And then a few years ago they painted it green, and at first I did not care for the green color, but then the more I looked at it, it grew on me. So I think I actually prefer it green instead of white like it was, but it's a personal preference. And also, if I would have been a rich woman, that house would be mine now, because it was for sale a few years ago. But it's not, so I do come and enjoy it from afar. So coming up, we're gonna pass by the Villa Coola toy shop, and that is where I got those lovely toys and the book at many years ago. It is right over here.
Can I park over there?
Well, they're not open, I don't believe. But that's them. Hopefully they talk. Alright, so now we're going to close out the video of the Pippi Longstocking House in Fernandina Beach, Florida. I have to highly suggest you visit here if you ever get a chance. I'll show the house a little bit whenever we're driving back out past it, because we had to come back here to finish up the video, because parking is not too easy in Fernandina. So we came back so we could finish up the video here. But just in case you don't know, Pippi Longstocking, her official birthday is May 21st, 1945. So she is currently 77 years old, but she forever celebrates her 9th birthday. So it's probably need to be 9. I remember whenever I was 9.
It's been a long time since I was 9.
It's been a very long time. But in my mind, I'm still 18 years old. So, we obviously know that's not the case either. But it is what it is. So let me see where my pictures are at. All right. So this is the information that I was telling you about Alfonso a while ago. It says Pippi's pet horse was unnamed in the original books, where it was simply called Horse, although some adaptations give the horse its name. And its official name in Sweden is Lilla Gubben, which is Swedish for little old man. So I did say that wrong a while ago too. Oh. And it says it's a name that was given to the animal in the Pippi Longstocking 1969 TV series. So whenever they filmed the movie here, he was named Alfonso. And it says for this film, the horse is named Alfonso. Despite the movie's title, it is not a sequel of the Pippi Longstocking stories, but a retelling of the first 2 books of the Pippi Longstocking series. And like I just said, May 21st is the birthday of Pippi Longstocking, who first appeared in 1945 in a novel by Swedish writer Astrid Lindgren. And the information about the house back there is it was built in 1888 by Captain James Bell. It was later owned by harbor pilot Captain Ron Downs and then made famous around the world in 1988 when the home was featured as Villa Villacula, the fictional home of Pippi Longstocking in the movie The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking. So, if you are a child of the 80s, maybe previously, you love Pippi Longstocking. There is absolutely nothing wrong with loving Pippi Longstocking at all. So, as I said back there at the Marina, whenever this movie was filmed, the house looked horrible. And I mean horrible. It looked run down and everything. And then my cousins moved to the area, and then they're like, you got to see the Pippi Longstocking house. And I know I've already touched base with all this, but why not touch it again? So, I'm like, okay. And then we came, and it looked better than what it did in the movie. But it still looked a little rough, but I fell in love with it. And then probably about 5 years ago or so,
yeah,
they painted it green. And I was not fond of that color at the beginning. I'm like, that is hideous. But the more I looked at it, the more I loved it. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, it came on the market. And you know, for a house that size and for that view out there, that price was not bad. I think it was like originally over $800,000. I think they dropped it down some more after that. And if I had that kind of money, I'd be living in Fernandina Beach, Florida right now in that house. I will tell you that. And I would have that beautiful view out there every single day. But I'm not rich, so somebody else lives in that house and it's their payment, not mine. So that's the good thing about that.
okay.
But anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the video. I do hope you enjoyed. It was another story time with Donna. Hopefully I did not bore you today. But I think everybody liked my Amelia Bedelia. If you haven't watched that video, you should. It's slightly entertaining as well. But I did not really do the voices today because I was outside trying to hold the book and make sure all my pricey toys right here did not blow off. But
You almost lost a hat.
I did almost lose that hat that I just paid $16 for from Mom the other day.
And I have really not got to wear it yet.
Yeah, she did not get to wear it, but anyway, it was featured in the video.
Okay.
So anyway, Mom's gonna do her thing.
Subscribe if you hadn't already. And if you have been watching, subscribe to all the rest of them. Okay?
Yeah, subscribe to the channel. It is free. I had somebody yesterday be like, "Why do I have to pay?" No, you don't have to pay anything. All you gotta do is just sign into your account, hit subscribe, and there you are. You will get notified every single time, as long as you got that bell on, of all my adventures. The good, the bad, the ugly, the entertaining, whatever you may find that it is. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and go. Hope you enjoyed. We shall see you again somewhere else. Have a good day, and bye. So that's a close-up of the house right there. And as you can see, this over here is the Fernandina Plaza Historic State Park. So if you see that, you are seeing the house. So So for a while they actually had Pippi out there on the gate, but I guess they took her off.
Right there in the movie.
I don't know, but she's on the porch now.
See right there, windmill and the rooster. Yeah, they got Pippi on this porch.
Yes, they moved her off the gate and put her on the porch.